Hello and welcome to It's Your Call, brought to you by Quit Now. This is where we look at some of the contentious umpiring decisions across the previous round. Round 2 has been run and won. And joining me, as he will throughout the course of this season, Jeff Geesham from the Umpires Department. Welcome, Geesh.
Thanks, Wayne.
Pass mark round 1. What about round 2 from the umpires?
Yeah, pretty good again. We had a couple of issues, one off the field and a couple on the field, but not a bad job.
If you'd like to get engaged, and we certainly encourage you to pick up any decisions that you'd like Geesh to explain, we'll pick out one from Facebook and one from Twitter. And all you have to do is log on to the respective Twitter addresses and Facebook address, and we'll pick one from Facebook and Twitter to work our way through. Well, what a game yesterday at the MCG. Geelong taking on Hawthorn. So many great highlights. A contentious, well, maybe not so much a contentious 50-metre free kick paid against the Hawks, Stevie Johnson, result in goal.
Yeah, it was a 50-metre penalty that we awarded. We can see Johnson mark the ball just outside the goal square there. We all know that Stevie has a history of going back and opening up the angle and playing on. So our umpire becomes focused on getting Stevens set on the right line, which he does.
Are you happy with this?
Look, it's not the best look, but what we see is Guerra and Gibson well inside the protected area. So from our point of view, we should have just pinged those two boys 50 metres because they blatantly ignored the 5-metre protected area. Then we see the umpire, once he sets Steven, goes back, sets the mark, and we actually see him put his hand out to say, come back to me. Unfortunately, the boys elected to ignore him, which meant then he had no choice to pay 50. So we can see Guerra very close. The umpire saying, come back to me. Gibbo does, Guerra doesn't, and all of a sudden the 50's paid. So it's a correct decision, but could have been paid earlier.
Yep. Stevie Johnson does it his own way, but yeah, I think you explained it quite well there.
And the umpire's showing there exactly where he wants the two players to come to, and unfortunately they didn't go back, so it's a clear 50-metre penalty.
Yep, no, well done to the umpires there, and well done to Stevie Johnson. Next decision, it is the Richmond-Collingwood game, Jack Riewoldt. I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's have a look at the vision involving Ben Reid.
Sure.
Could that be argued as blocking his run?
No, look, what we have a situation here where Reid's going for the mark the whole time, eyes on the ball, at all stage going for the mark, whereas Jack Riewoldt gets caught out of position and runs back with the ball, takes his eye off the ball for a little period of time now, and Reid stands his ground. Now, Reid's entitled to stand his ground. He's not entitled to charge at him and block him or push him, but he is entitled to stand his ground. So the umpire has to make a call on that. He didn't deem that he blocked or pushed or bumped him. He deemed that he was standing his ground as Riewoldt was coming back. So umpire has to make a call. We were comfortable with the fact that he didn't pay a free kick. All
right, 2 from 2. Let's have a look at the third one. This one is a blocking free kick involving Matt Maguire against Carlton Thursday last week.
Yes, and this is one we're seeing a little bit more of where we have more than one ruckman going for the ball. And we can see Hampson from Carlton electing to go up as the third man up. The vision will show he wants to go up for the ruck. Maguire steps into his path and just blocks him there. So regardless of the fact that, you know, we've already got a Carlton player, I think it's Cruiser going for the ruck, Hampson's entitled to go up as well and isn't entitled to be blocked. So Maguire steps into his path as the third man up, blocks him, free kick for blocking in a ruck contest.
All right, 3 from 3, hard to argue there. As I said at the beginning of the show, and I'll say it every week, you can pick out one decision and post it to us either via Twitter or Facebook, and we'll pick one of those out. And this is the one, the most contentious one from the round, Geesh, involving Tendai Muzungu. Yes. Fourth quarter, stage of the game, Fremantle coming.
Yes, and there's a couple of situations here. Look, it's a clear error by the umpires, by the way. We can see Muzungu here trying to get after the ball. A little bit of a grab, nothing there. But now, when Matner falls on his back, sits on his head, that's a clear free kick. We saw that little bit of vision before which showed the umpire on the opposite side right out wide. So he didn't have the best look at it, but it was a pretty clear and obvious sit on the head. High contact, should have been a free kick.
So, for those who might be wondering, where should the umpire have been positioned? Because effectively, he looked as though he was another boundary umpire at the time.
Correct, he did. And look, we want them to stay out of the corridor. We don't want them up and down the corridor because that's where the teams want to go. So we do ask them to stay wide. In this situation, unfortunately, he was just a bit too wide, didn't get the angle from the other side and couldn't see it. So a free kick against Matner for that. Yes, the umpire wasn't in great position, but that's no excuse. We still expect to get that sort of decision at this level.
Well, they are human. They're entitled to make the odd mistake, and fortunately for the Swans, they managed to hang on, so I'm pretty happy with that. And that one was from Braden. Let's stay with social media. This one comes from Jake Williams, and this is in regards to the interchange infringement.
Yes. Yes, and we've got an error here as well from our interchange steward. Yeah, it was an awkward situation in that Sydney filled out their card, and on their card they actually had for O'Keefe to go onto the ground and Hanbury to come off.
This was a substitute, wasn't it?
Substitute.
Yep.
And in actual fact, it was the other way around. It was O'Keefe to come off and Hanbury to go on. So the Sydney Interchange steward filled the card out incorrectly, which once it's handed over to the AFL Interchange steward, he should just recognise that and say, look, you've made a mistake, go back and fix it up. Be noted as what we call a minor breach, not a free kick and 50-metre penalty, just a minor breach. Unfortunately, our interchange steward got it wrong. A free kick, goal to Fremantle, and at a time in the game when there was a lot of a momentum switch. So unfortunately, our interchange steward made an error in that regard, which is a massive error in the context of the game.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the interchange stewards right around the country come under your guidance?
Correct.
Okay, is there anything that could be done differently so this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, look, Jenny Luffman is our lady that looks after all interchange stewards and timekeeping, and she provides them with training and information, and they clearly got all this information. And at the start of the year they have coaching sessions. Jenny travels around, they have a sheet saying what's a major breach, what's a minor breach. They're briefed over and over. It was just a concentration error by our interchange steward here, so I'm not sure whether we could have done any more in the heat of battle. Concentration error, very disappointing. No excuse, so we're disappointed about that.
All right, final decision this week that we'll have a look at, very similar to the Chris Yarran goal to open up the season. First round, Mark McVeigh.
Yeah, look, this looks very similar to the Yarran one the previous week, but angles are deceptive here, and I just want to point out, look where McVeigh is. You can see his left foot, which is the one closest to the line, is actually out of bounds, so is his right leg, and we can see the ball over his right leg. So if McVeigh is totally out of bounds, even though he's on a bit of a lean, the fact of the matter was the ball was over his right leg, and boundary umpire in a good position and comfortable that ball was out.
You put a compelling argument forward, although I'm not completely in agreement with you, but I'll take your view on that one just before we wrap things up. Watched the game yesterday. I gave Chelsea Rolfie a rap last week, but there must be a fair amount of confidence that she gets to umpire arguably the biggest game of round 2, Hawthorn-Geelong yesterday at the MCG. Yeah,
that's a fair assumption, Wayne. Obviously, it was a huge game, and last year's premiership side versus this year's premiership favourites, and all the appointments for that game were based on merit and who's travelling well at the time, and certainly Chelsea's right up there at the moment and going well.
Well done to Chelsea, and just quickly, Jordan Bannister is the trailblazer, but Lee Fish is into the system, and a former Richmond coach's son's now into the program.
Yes, not my son, thank goodness. But Terry Wallace's son, Brent, has decided to take up umpiring. So we're delighted with that. Lee Fish is well on the way. He's umpiring at the VFL level and TAC Cup level this year. Brent Wallace will be doing Eastern Footy League and amateurs. So they're well on the way, and hopefully we can get more players taking it up. Keep up the great work. Round 2 is complete. Keep sending your decisions you'd like us to discuss on It's Your Call. It's all brought to you by Quit Now. Have a great week. May your team win on round 3. And Geesh, look forward to seeing you next week. Me too, Wayne. See you then.